Screen, please. Screen, please. Okay. I'd like to call the public session to order. And we have no action coming out of executive session. So I do believe first on the agenda is Dr. Paris's principal's welcome.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shear. Welcome to Robert Graves, folks. I'm very glad to see everybody tonight. I just have a couple brief words I wanted to say. I really want to thank my staff for coming as well. I've got a lot of Robert Graves folks here, so thank you very much to them. Very supportive, incredible staff. First thing I want to talk about really is the transition because, as you know, Anna Devine came into Robert Graves, and this year there is no discussion of a transition. We are completely Robert Graves. We are a team. We're working as one, and we hardly never hear about that. So I'm bringing it up to say it is not a point. It's a very positive atmosphere, and we're one now. So that's something that needs to be recognized, I think, for the staff, our students, and our parents. Other key things that we're working on is a new playground. It's a big push at Robert Graves, and I'm going to just pass this around to have the board look at it. Got some pictures of what we're working on. So I'm definitely plugging the new playground. Our PTO has been working hard, and the students are excited about it. We're looking at changing the area where it's located so that it is dry and it can be used by up to 100 students. So it's something we're excited about and we're working on, and we're hoping if we can get the funding, we'll be able to start this summer is our goal. So I hope you can look at that and give us some support on that too. Also, Robert Graves, our test scores this year were solidly average test scores, which sounds good, but it's something that we're working on bringing up even higher. We are definitely one of the highest performing schools in the Kingston City School District. So one part of our SEP goal is to bring our level 3 and level 4 scores up. Part of doing that is looking at our opt-out rate. We have on average about 11% opt-out. So our teachers have been educating our parents, and I've been working with parents so they understand really what opting out is about, and hopefully we can decrease those numbers. Also, one thing that's a little unique about Robert Graves is our data logs. This year, instead of plan books, all of our teachers are creating data logs. Those data logs both have formative and interim assessments on a weekly basis that help track and drive instruction for our students. So it's a way to really bring data to life, and it's something that's unique to Robert Graves. One other goal that we've really been focusing on is decreasing our referral to special education. And we've been very successful in doing this already this year. We've focused on providing Tier 1 interventions, which are in-classroom interventions, to help students be more successful and to really work with our students who may need special ed support to try to give them better support in the classroom directly. So far, we've cut our referral rate in half this year to special ed, which is significant. And one last plug, we have a spaghetti dinner on Friday night. So I'm going to leave some flyers here if anybody wants to attend. I'm going to put that there. Thank you very much, and welcome to Robert Graves.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we've reached the portion of our agenda where we welcome public participation. You're limited to 2 minutes. It's not a conversation. Please speak into the microphone so the live people at home watching live streaming can actually hear you. And our board clerk will let you know when you're approaching 2 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you for coming to Robert Graves. I'm Jeannie Stoico. I'm a parent, but also a proud public educator, and have been at Robert Graves for 32 years. Love the community and happy to be here. Bullies come in all shapes and sizes, and it seems that even the governor of New York can fit this description. He is holding schools, districts, educators, and children hostage for his political agenda. He seems to have no regard for local school districts and their communities. The lack of adequate funding and the inequity of funding around the state is criminal. A highly respected superintendent in a suburb of Rochester called the governor's budget, quote, an all-out assault on public education, teachers, children, families, and local control. Another superintendent said the governor is using schools school aid as a pawn in the state budget process. The governor needs to listen to parents, teachers, students, and boards of education around our state. Educators will not take the blame when schools are not properly funded, when curriculum was rolled out without sound research and proper timeline, and when half of U.S. public school children live in poverty. And let's not forget, by the way, that it is educators who bring in snacks, pay for books at the book fair, and purchase school supplies for their disadvantaged students. And as the governor promotes charter schools and schools for profit, we need to stand up and say public schools are not for sale. Anyone who has spent more than a day or two in public school classrooms knows that students and their teachers are more than a test score and deserve to be more than a pawn in a budget game. We teach students to stand up to bullies, so I ask this Board of Education, the parents and teachers of our communities, to stand up to our governor and let him know that we need funding restored, and we need respect for teachers, students, and parents. And we need a return to common sense education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Reagan. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Going, okay. Hearing nothing. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Paolino, and we're going to begin with
I have just a few things. There's on the agenda, the superintendent's report, there are a few things, but I have had some additions over the last couple of days, so I'm just going to hit a couple of quick ones, and then we'll move on to the things that are on the agenda. Just quickly, because of the timeliness of Mrs. Stoico, I just wanted to let everyone know that on the 23rd, February 23rd at 6:30 at Miller Middle School, there will be a public forum, Ulster County Defense Public Education, sponsored by our Teachers Union, KTF, and ESP, AQE, the Round Out Valley Federation, and the Alliance for Public Education, New York State Alliance for Public Education. There will be a round table or a panel of speakers, and I will be one of those speakers myself, Billy Easton from AQE, Bianca Tanis for the New York State Allies for Public Education, and another teacher that is to be determined. I think they already know, actually. I think just out of the time of this printing of this flyer. So the 23rd at 6:30 at Miller Middle School.
in the auditorium.
In the auditorium, yes.
Yeah.
So I did want to let people know that. Also, just another quick one, that tomorrow at 6 o'clock at Sione will be our second budget forum. And now I will go on to the things that are on the, well, actually this isn't on the agenda either, so I will, I will go off the agenda and go, we have our Ms. Scrudim just gave me a really interesting look, but our construction manager from BBL is here to give us a quick report.
I just want to give you a quick update on this summer, the 2015 summer project. As you know, at your last board meeting, or maybe a couple of them ago, the letters of recommendation came down to you for the apparent low bidders, which were approved. And at this point, contracts have been distributed to all of the contractors. It includes for contract 1 and 2 to Neoplanter Restoration, Contract 3 to Meyer Contracting, Contract 4 to Duchess Mechanical, Contract 5 and 6 to DeJezer Mechanical, Contract 7 to Stilsing Electric, and Contract 8 to HVS LLC Electrical Contractors. And then in the information that I had sent to you, also will give you the contract costs and the breakdown of the 2015 summer project. In addition to the information that was provided, we had last Friday, the 13th, pre-construction meeting with all of the contractors. They all showed up. It was a great meeting. We had them bring their schedules with them, all their schedule values with them. At this point, we have all of their contracts back to us, ready for execution, their bonds and their insurance information, and they're starting to send in their submittals on materials. Everyone's really glad for the extra time that we have before June so that we can get this all started. The work at George Washington will start before school is out on second shift. It'll be a little intrusive. It shouldn't be intrusive whilst kids are still in school. But for the summer, the school is basically going to be completely taken over by contracting. We have also been requested by some of the contractors to do some work over the spring vacation from March and the first week in April. What we can do, of course, we won't do any abatement or anything like that during that time, but if we can get them in and give them a head start, they can do a thorough investigation of what they want to do for the summer, do their measurements and that type of thing, then we can start off on a good foot in June. So everything is going really well, and the contractors they seem to be a really good group, so I'm looking forward to working with them. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Ms. Cardenas's report will be posted online along with the completed maintenance and work orders and extra work projects that have been done by district maintenance staff. I think you'll be really surprised when you see it. So.
Next, from part of my report, we have our graduation requirement presentation with Mrs. Bonville and Mr. Reinhardt. If you remember, this was in the letter in the packet. The original information was sent to you a couple board meetings ago, and this presentation was requested. So we have this in a brief presentation. There's also a kind of a short bulleted list in this week's packet that kind of summarizes what you received 2 weeks ago.
Good evening. We're here tonight. I'm here with Principal Kirk Reinhardt from the high school, of course, to talk about the Multiple Pathways initiative. Basically, the theory of action behind the Multiple Pathways is that under the current system of completion, students are either dropping out of school or not having their academic needs met. They're being disenfranchised with school. And so the Board of Regents, in an attempt to kind of, increase graduation rate, increase interest, and really increase rigor, passed this Multiple Pathways initiative recently. And what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of take you through the sort of details of the Multiple Pathways, which is also called the 4+1, which we'll explain in a minute. And then on another slide, Mr. Reinhardt's going to address how it kind of looks in terms of Kingston High School and what it means for our students. The Multiple Pathways follows a backward design, so it starts with the end in mind. The goal, as I mentioned earlier, is to increase the graduation rate, hopefully, engage students more fully, have career-focused choices. Post-secondary education planning can start a little bit earlier, now hopefully in middle school, particularly looking at some of the CTE choices. It's a route to a 2- and a 4-year college, as well as additional career training and employment. And our students, one of the pathways that we're going to talk about, or that Kirk will be talking about in a few minutes, is the humanities pathway. The humanities pathway is basically what our students are doing currently. They're kind of already on that path. It's important to note that these additional assessments that we're going to be talking about, the 4+1, basically refers to 4 regents in core subjects and the addition of 1 additional assessment, which, as I said, we'll go into detail in a minute. There is, kind of a little bit of a catch-22 with this because the tests actually have very much increased rigor. It's not a safety valve. It's not kind of an easy way out, particularly in terms of the CTE exams. For the student timeline, which is one of the bubbles on your sheet, and I'm sorry that the slide is not kind of a little bit bigger for you to read, but students would really need to decide more quickly in terms of the art, the CTE, the biliteracy pathway, mainly because they need to have that sequence, so they would need to kind of think about that and have a little more forethought in that way. The CTE pathway, these assessments, as I mentioned, are very rigorous. They're written at a very high reading level. They're expensive to administer. And there is a written component to these assessments as well as a practical that students have to pass. Recently, Mr. Reinhardt and I attended a meeting at Ulster BOCES, and they reported a 79% passing rate on these exams. Currently, there are 13 approved exams, And by the way, under, for the important resources, there are links, and of course it's on your packet as well. The links for the approved assessments and alternate assessments are on there, as well as the 13 CTE approved assessments. Ulster BOCES currently has the ProStart, which is our culinary, auto service, and the A+ certification exam, which is our Cisco exam. New Vision's program does not qualify because students already obtain college credit for that. There is no change in the Multiple Pathways Initiative to our Advanced Regions designation. For the approved alternatives, which is the bubble kind of up by the top there has always been state-approved alternative assessments, AP exams, the International Baccalaureate exams, for example, the SAT subject exams. They've always been in place. So now they're just kind of looking at them in a slightly different light. In terms of art and languages other than English, the only approved alternative assessment at this time is the AP Studio Art, which we do have at the high school. We also have AP Music Theory. However, that has not been approved by the Board of Regents as a possibility. They are going to be reconvening in the fall, the Board of Regents, and looking at some additional assessments that they could add in. And it's important to note that the local Checkpoint B exam for languages other than English is not an approved pathway assessment. So as I said, the next steps for state ed is the Blue Ribbon Commission, as they are called, that came up with this, will be reconvened in the fall to look at some more assessments and decide, make some decisions, particularly in terms of the art, some of the CTE pieces, and for LOTE. For the CTE pathway, they're also looking at a possibility to include science credit for computer science. They're not really sure if that will be a dual kind of a 2-for-1, but they are talking about that. And of course, they're looking to request resources to hopefully benefit schools, which is kind of interesting because we have our two plates spinning with, supposedly we're not getting a lot of aid, but then they're going to be looking for more aid. So those are the next steps that are coming up for the fall. So with that, I'll turn it over to
So Beth asked me to kind of reiterate what this looks like at the high school level. So if you look at the one on the left, Humanities Pathways, that's the traditional pathway that our students obtain right now. They'll take one Regents exam in the core area, and right now they've been doubling up on social studies with the global on the U.S. history. So the one on the left really hasn't changed. The one that right now we believe has the best opportunity to impact our graduation rate here at Kingston High School is the STEM pathway. What that allows our students to do is if they pass one of each of the core Regents exams and they pass either a second science or a second math, they meet the 4+1. And as you know, we started the rollover about 4 years ago of moving biology to 9th grade. So we actually met with the science department today, and one of our goals has always been for students to continue on into earth science. So if they were to pass earth science, then the requirement would be for only one of the social studies Regents exams. We're also meeting with the math department to look at what that path would look like for students going from the integrated algebra or now the Common Core algebra and then going into geometry. So that's the STEM pathway, and that's something we can actually look at the high school right now. I've met with the guidance counselors, and they're actually going to pull those numbers and actually see if any of our students will fall into that, because people who graduate this year can go with this pathway. The CTE pathway is the one that Ms. Bonville talked about. A lot of those opportunities are going to be through our BOCES program. Right now, 3 of those assessments have been approved, but they are very rigorous. The BOCES is going to keep us informed as more of those assessments are approved, and we're also going to see if there's any opportunities for any of those assessments to be offered in-house as we increase our CTE program with the CDOS requirements. So we're looking at any of those assessments that we can actually do ourselves. The arts pathway, as Ms. Bonville was saying, one of the ones that is now approved is the Studio and Art AP exam. Hopefully the state will come down with other opportunities for students to obtain that pathway and let that be their +1. But that is one opportunity we do have right now. I'm not sure how many students that would affect our graduation rate. The one on the far right is the one that a lot of teachers and a lot of people are concerned with why this hasn't happened. But if you look at the literacy and the LOTE, We have an awful lot of students who are very successful in 3 years of a foreign language. So we're really hoping that the state will come down with, the problem with the checkpoint B, it's locally driven and it's not a state assessment at this point. The Regents was taken away a while ago. So that's one that we're really hoping that the state will somehow allow our students that are very successful in the 3-year LOAT program or the literacy program for that to be their +1. So hopefully, like Ms. Bonneville said, when they convene in the fall, they will look at other opportunities for the art pathway. We're looking at, we think the AP Music would be a great one, and also our LOAT classes. So that's the 5 pathways, and like I said, the first one is pretty much what we do right now, and the second one is something we definitely think we can impact at the high school right now. Any questions?
So, to be clear, it's 4+1 because the CTE pathway is not a high school diploma, correct?
No, they'd all be considered the local diploma. It's 4+1 instead of the required 5 gatekeepers. You can now have 1 social studies, the ELA, 1 math, and 1 science. And what they're saying is the +1 can be any one of those 5.
So there is I took a very brief training about this, and there's some kind of certificate that's now being offered that you can graduate high school, but you don't have a high school diploma.
The CDOS is different than these pathways.
So that's not included. Okay, I thought that was the same as the CTE. And my other question, because there's also like a weird formula of passing the Regents, right? If you get 45 and a few, then you get 60.
It depends on the safety net, because as the RCTs have been rolled out and eliminated for certain cohorts, depending on what your special needs are, it'll determine your safety net. So you're right. If you get a 75 on a Regents exam that's mathematics, it allows you a safety net of a 55 or a 45 on one of the non. It cannot be the English or the math. But yes, it's a complicated. The guidance counselors need to sit with every student and say.
And is that only for special ed?
Those safety nets right now are taking the place of the RCT that were drawn out per year.
And I have one more question. Are we doing any kind of education to the parents? I'm sure the students are meeting with their guidance counselor, but are there like handouts going out to freshmen about the parents are aware of what needs to happen, or is there,
as in this?
As in the graduation requirements.
Well, as you know, right now it's pretty much going to be guidance counselor driven because this was approved January, is it the 22nd or the 18th? So it's fairly new. So pretty much now, the goal going forward is, we need to kind of be careful because it looks nice, but until these other assessments are approved, to tell our students that, okay, you're going to take one last, and then you can have this requirement, and the test isn't approved, or we're not sure what that assessment looks like, it's really tough. So it will be nice in a couple years to say, okay, you've taken these, you've passed these 4, you now can maybe go for a CTE or a STEM. We just have to be careful that everything's in place ahead of time.
Thank you.
Okay, so just so that I'm sure I understand this, for any of these multiple pathways to graduation for local diploma, you would still need 22 credits.
Yes.
That has not changed. And for the advanced Regents diploma, which many of our students do go through, they may qualify for these other classifications as well as their advanced Regents examination.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the things that we're required to do earlier this year is those, advanced with science, advanced with math.
Okay, now, in keeping with what Ms. Guido just asked, going forward, when you hand out the course of study guides and the guidance counselors are meeting with the students, I know right now you do a really wonderful job in the beginning. There's a lot of information in the beginning of the course of study guide with what's required for certain diplomas. Will this be incorporated?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think when we have all the pieces,
Okay.
we like Kirk mentioned, we definitely want to make sure. I mean, they're still making decisions, and they're still,
Like Beth and I were talking today. I mean, if you look at it, our students still have to take U.S. history. So the final exam, they're still going to take the Regents. I see this changing more when we start meeting with our sophomores as we go forward with a CTE or we go forward with other pathways that are more now. It kind of looks like this is taking the place of something else. Does that make sense, Bishop?
Yes, it does. It does. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Mr. Reinhardt had to run out the door because we're playing Newburgh in basketball over at Cape Walden tonight, so he needs to get there. 2 final things from the superintendent's report. The first thing is, of those 2, is just kind of give you a brief piece of information. I know most of you already know this, and we do have a web story out there, and we put this information out there. We have created a pilot UPK program at JFK, extending it into a full-day program. We started basically immediately today, and we currently do have 15 students registered full day over there now, so we're expecting more over the next couple of weeks as people start to learn more about it. So I will keep you posted on how that is going. Again, this is a pilot for the rest of this year, and we'll see how that goes, and then we'll make some decisions next year on how we're going to continue to run the UPK programs, the ones that we have in-house. Again, we still have the outside providers, but the ones that we run in-house, we're making some changes and taking some looks at what we can do differently.
Any questions? I have one question. What is the full capacity of the JFK program?
Mr. Burge, what's our full capacity?
21 students.
21, so you have, okay. And are the students in UPK eligible for the TOPS after-school program or no?
We're not making that an option for them at this
Okay.
time. Their pre-K day will run from 8:30 to 2:30, and they'll be dismissed before the regular dismissal begins at the JFK school.
Okay, and lunch is provided?
Lunch is provided.
As well as breakfast.
Breakfast is an option for them.
Okay.
No transportation.
Mrs. Lau?
Now, we already have a half-day there?
Yes.
And
We've just expanded it into a full-day program,
so those kids are now full-day,
if they choose to be, yes.
if they choose, otherwise they stayed half?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, lastly, last week, or 2 weeks ago, we had several of our board members recognized by the New York State School Boards Association for their work as board members, and I repeat what I said before, I've been doing this for 10 years, and I don't think I've had given out this many recognition certificates in 1 year as I have to this board, so that's really a tribute to your willingness to take professional development, learn more about being good board members, learn more about how you can best serve our students and our community, so it's greatly appreciated. And today we gave 2 out last week, and this week we'll give out another one. This one is to Mr. Michael, and this is the Board Excellence Award from the New York State School Boards Association. That concludes my report.
Congratulations, Mr. Michael. I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes from February 4th.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any amendments or corrections to minutes? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes of February 4th, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Are there any resolutions that any board member would like pulled from the consent agenda? Okay. CS 20. Any others? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda minus CS 20.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. All those in favor of the consent agenda minus CS 20, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I entertain a motion to accept CS 20.
Second.
Okay, discussion. CS, yeah, go ahead.
It's amendment for CS 20, and it goes from to 18, or what is it?
Is right here, Kathleen Howick, probationary period ending 2/18/2018.
Okay, so that was an amendment to the appointment of Kathleen Howick to correct the probationary period. It should read June 18th, 2015, correct? Or 2018, February 18th, 2018, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mess that up. All right, all those in favor of CS 20 as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that marks the end of the consent agenda. And we are now on to Board of Education. First up is the Facilities Committee, and that's a very brief report. The Facilities Committee met on February 11th, and at that meeting, we went over the work that had been done this year, 2013, 2014, documented. Mr. Clapper and I met back in the fall, and it was the requested work, the work that was conveyed to the board as those things that were of most concern to the principals and to the head custodians. Some of those jobs, because they were so large, had to be relegated to summer work projects, to our next 5-year capital plan, which we're required to do coming up next year, or to the capital project at the high school. Those that we were able to do, we did address, and some additional work was done where there were monies available. It might not be enough to do big projects. There were projects done, and I'm going to brag a little bit for the maintenance staff did a beautiful job at Crosby School on the modulars. The modulars have been rather unsightly for years, and they have been roofed, sided, the ventilation's been redone, plumbing,
Windows.
say again?
Windows.
New windows, floors in 2 of the rooms, a new bathroom. So if you have a chance, it's not exactly Disney World, but it's very nice to look at. So that's the kind of thing that the maintenance staff has addressed if they have any monies available to do so. Probably within the next couple of weeks, you'll see a report up online. If you are, like, you don't have a bestseller at home to read by your bed, you want to read this report, please do so. But it makes for good reading. This board's been very transparent about what's been done with the monies, and take a look at the things that are being addressed. And I will say this, for the maintenance staff, they do a wonderful job, and the principals and head custodians are noticing that jobs that were on the list for years are actually being tackled, and I want to commend them. So, wonderful job there. Up next is the next set of concerns that have been submitted by the principals and the head custodians, and that report comes out in April. So that's our next meeting on tax day, April 15th. We do this every year, and those are the 2 reports that the committee generates. In addition to that, we have the KHS Capital Project coming up, the Second Century Project. And there is a weekend, April 18th and 19th. Those of you who received the paper newsletter at home probably saw a lovely timeline that Mrs. Heidecker prepared with vintage photos from the yearbooks. There are groups working for each decade, actually preparing a museum walk for that weekend, a ceremonial groundbreaking that BBL, Ms. Cordenas, who had to leave, but who told us about the summer work project, will be facilitating. We have groundbreaking for the beginning of the KHS Second Century Project, which is the field house, on April 18th. There'll be performances by the alumni choir, and also in the evening there's a cocktail reception at Hillside Manor, performances by alumni from the jazz ensembles for the last several years. So it promises to be a really interesting, and I know I'm forgetting things, but it promises to be a really interesting weekend. So please come. And that's just peripherally part of the facilities concern. And moving along to policy. You're down here this time.
Deeds.
Huh?
Deeds.
No, we crossed that off.
Oh, you crossed it off?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem. This evening we have Policy 5500 coming forth for adoption. We had our first reading of it at the last meeting. This deals with student records, and I just wanted to point out a clarification since there was an article in the newspaper, and I had addressed this briefly last week. The criteria that are bolded here, the things that are going to be added here, I had mentioned, it said in the paper, it seemed like that was something that we had requested to add. We always do this in consultation with our legal counsel. I'm addressing specifically things like photographs and videos. And our legal counsel, like most other districts, said that it would just be wise to cover these in light of recent technological developments. Parents always have the right to opt out. We are not changing that. That's always in the first day of school packet that comes home. But I did want to point out, especially if you have a college-bound student, this is the way they do things nowadays. For example, athletes have huddle accounts, to access games or their performances on video. Students who are involved in music and performances, many colleges will tap into that. So that's not something that we asked to add. It was recommended by our legal counsel. And once again, we are not taking out, it's in here, the right to opt out of this at all. So that's just for clarification. But today we are bringing this policy forth for adoption. As I said, it's policy 5500. And I guess that means, may I move it?
Sure.
Okay. So I'd like to move this policy forward, policy 5500, student records, then for adoption. Thank you.
Good, okay. We've had 2 readings. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of BOE 53, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're at old business. Any old business board members would like to bring up at this point? Ms. Guido.
I'm not sure if coffee and conversation would fit under old business. We've been talking about it. We did talk at the last meeting about doing some community events. I did speak with Mrs. Heidecker, and she was interested in starting to do a little bit more community outreach for the budget, getting the vote out. So we had talked about board members partnering with her to attend the farmers market. She had a few other community events in the district area that might be a good idea. Unfortunately, she wanted to do this close to budget time because people sometimes have short memories. For the public, they're not thinking about it. The last winter farmers market is on April 18th, which is a busy day for the district. So she and I were going to talk about whether it would be worth it to go there for an hour. But I have been in touch with the farmers market in regards to that, and Mrs. Heidecker's going to give me some other ideas to bring back to the board, and then open up, if everyone agrees to, just as we do for coffee and conversation, for trustees to also attend. So that was discussions I had about that. And then should I talk about Meyer? The Meyer PTA?
Sure.
I attended last night as part of our trying to reach people outside of the early morning hours. Unfortunately, it's a bad time of year for PTAs, I guess. It was cold, and there was a softball clinic going on in the gym. Lots of kids with bats, baseball bats, which I thought were there for me. But so 3 parents attended. It was a nice conversation with school principal and the president and secretary of the PTA. They did have a few interesting, when I explained why I was there, was to increase communication among the district and community. They did have some communication-related things. I did send an email to Mrs. Heidecker, but one of them was the DWPC, whether they could get back into a regular schedule of posting an agenda beforehand, so parents who might be interested might want to come. And then also posting their minutes after a meeting, which I went on their tab. It looks like they did used to do that. Mrs. Heidecker said that they have complete access to do that, so it's not something she has to do. So I thought maybe you guys could bring it up at the next meeting, and it was a request of 2 people.
We actually brought it up at this meeting.
Yes,
You did? Okay.
Actually brought it up, and they do have access to it. And for each of the schools, the principal or the principal's designees have access.
They do. Okay.
They can post things for the school. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'll send him an email to let him know that he can do that as well.
No.
That was brought up by.
Okay.
And also, there was a request to more frequently post board policy, or not policy, board committee meetings minutes online. I guess I went on and it's done sometimes, but there was a request to maybe do it more consistently so the public can read the minutes of committee meetings that are occurring. So that's what came out of my meet and greet with the Meyer PTA. They were really excited to have me there. Dr. Cope was supposed to attend with me, but it was just me solo. And they talked about maybe coming back. I said, if you'd like to ask us, one of us to come back or something like that. So.
Excellent. Any other old business? New business?
chart of Monday attendance, and I see the chart of the attendance, it seems to decline from September to January. I'm assuming January has to do a lot with the weather, right? For whatever reason. But that's a normal pattern.
And we'll see it swing back up. And now, when I bring it back to you in May, you'll see it swing back up. It's a pretty traditional curve.
Okay.
I have two things for new business.
Excuse me?
I have two things for new business. If no else.
Okay. I wanted to mention, this is a little bit of, it's ongoing business, not really new business, that there are now well over 700 volunteers signed up at Tier 2 and 3 for field trips. So the fears that, having more stringent requirements of volunteers would really curtail volunteerism haven't really proved to be founded. So we're very, very happy to have all those parents volunteer. Anything else? Okay, Dr. Paolino has a couple pieces of new business.
So this is actually, I don't know if this is new business, old business, or a little bit of both. We continue to struggle to find the time, the date for our board retreat. We all came to consensus on a day, and then the facilitator couldn't do that day. So we are still stringing out there. At this point, we had our original facilitator is now back from, will be back from her snowbird time in Florida, and we do have a date that we could do, and I don't know if we could do, but we were going to propose that she can facilitate, and that would be March 23rd. So Mrs. DePerna is going to send an email out to all. I know we only have 6 of us here, so we need 9. March 23rd. No, that's February 23rd. No, that's February 23rd. March 23rd, yeah. Okay. March 23rd will be, so Mrs. DePerna will send out an email to everyone and get a kind of survey to see if we can get everyone together on that day. So that would be back to our original facilitator, who is Janice White, who's also our district leadership team facilitator. And just lastly, the other thing is a new business that I wanted to kind of say the same type of things that Ms. Shearer said about our maintenance and our custodial staff and the work that they're doing in our buildings. They're doing a phenomenal job this time of year. On top of it, the idea of trying to clear these sidewalks and clear these parking lots in sub-zero temperatures. And by the way, everyone, salt doesn't work when it's this cold. So when people call and say, you need to put more salt down, salt doesn't work. And we put 12 tons of salt down Saturday night at Kingston High School. All right, Miller. Because there was an event there. When it's 30 below zero, salt doesn't work. But these guys are out there. The plows are out. They're shoveling. They're doing everything they can. So I do appreciate their effort. And just talking about the other things that have been done, I do want to thank Mr. Clapper, who's here tonight, who is our Director of Buildings and Grounds, for organizing and getting our guys out there. You're doing a great job, and so are they. So thank you.
Thank you. Board member announcements.
I have one.
Yes.
I wish that Dr. Jacobowitz or Mr. Shaughnessy were here, but in their absence, I'm going to speak since the 3 of us attended on Friday night the 1 Billion Rising event at Ulster County, representing Kingston High School. Kingston High School members, 6 members of the Kingston High School football team and County Executive Mike Hine both received awards, and it was a pretty big deal. I was very proud of them. It was given by Ms. Gwen Wright, who heads up the Governor's Office of Domestic Violence Protection. And these young men signed a pledge basically saying that the education starts with them, and they participated in a process where they spoke honestly and openly with younger classmates, and this was recognized by the Governor's Office, as I said, and it was pretty well attended, and I was so pleased with the comments from the Kingston community about our young people, and it was really a proud night. So we have the certificate. There were some pictures taken, and I said to be honored also with County Executive Hine. Dr. Jacobowitz was there, Mr. Shaughnessy was there, and we all felt very, very proud of them.
Thank you for sharing that. If you've been checking on the website, the varsity cheerleaders from the high school placed 3rd in the nationals. So that deserves mention. And I also have been approached by several people from the community and said what a rewarding experience it was to accompany the marching band and the musical groups to Disney World, and how wonderful the kids were and how impressed people were who met them and encountered them. So kudos. Any other announcements? All right. We've reached... Coffee and conversation. The next one is?
March 18th at 12:30 at Dominic's.
Okay, March 18th at 12:30 at Dominic's, and we need to volunteer. March 18th, 12:30 at Dominic's. We do a smile. Thank you.
We're all doing.
Who's doing it, just me?
We're both doing.
Oh, we're both doing it. Thank you. I didn't hear you.
Luncheon conversation.
Will you be there, Dr. Powell?
He is not going to be there that day.
He can't come that day. All right, we've reached the second opportunity for public participation. If there's anyone who would like to address the board at this point, please come forward. Going. All right. Seeing no one jumping to the microphone and having no need for another executive session, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming. The basketball game is still going on.
You can still make the second half.
The Newburgh game.